Hello, what's up? Welcome to this motorsport news channel. Today I'm going to talk about the latest Formula One news that have been revealed these previous days. So let's go. The first one is McLaren explains why they didn't use their new F1 front wing in Montreal. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri did not feel comfortable with McLaren's new front wing in practice, prompting the team to revert to its previous specification in Canada. McLaren introduced the second phase of its major Miami upgrade package in Montreal. Initially, the second phase was expected to focus primarily on a new front wing, although the team had already indicated in Florida that it would involve slightly more than that. That was confirmed in the FIA's technical submissions on Friday, which among other components listed a new engine cover, revised rear suspension fairings, and changes to the floor edges. The new front wing remained the headline upgrade for this weekend, but McLaren has opted to temporarily park it. Norris started the only practice session of the Canadian Grand Prix weekend with the new specification, while Piastri initially ran the previous version. The Australian switched to the new wing later on, but McLaren explained that neither driver felt comfortable with it. As a result, the team reverted to the specification used in previous races, meaning Norris and Piastri will also use it for the sprint race due to park for May conditions. "We were worried about being off the pace and I didn't have much confidence in the car," Norris said after sprint qualifying. "But we made some changes that delivered a clear step forward. We returned to the previous spec front wing going into sprint quali, which gave me some more confidence." Piastri reached a similar conclusion after completing the second row of the grid for McLaren. "It was a big package to deliver and we have some more work to do on the front wing. We ended up running with the older one in sprint qualifying as we felt more comfortable with it." Both drivers and technical director of engineering Neil Holdy stressed that the rest of the package is delivering the expected gains, but that the front wing may require additional work. "We've made great progress over the last few races. The upgrade in Miami had a big effect on closing the gap to the front, and the new parts we've brought here seem to have helped close it a little bit more again," Holdy concluded. "With that said, we reverted to the old specification front wing after FP1 this morning. We found during the session that the front wing wasn't quite delivering what we expected, and we ultimately took the call to run the previous specification front wing, which gave the drivers more confidence and allowed them to unlock more performance." Although McLaren acknowledges that further investigation is needed to understand why the new front wing has not yet delivered what was expected, the question remains how much of that is circuit-specific. Attacking the curbs is a crucial factor at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and drivers need confidence to do so, something that was lacking with the updated front wing. Barcelona will provide the next representative track, allowing for a more accurate assessment of the front wing upgrade. Now let's go for the second one, which is about how the FIA just fined Racing Bulls €30,000. Lawson's stoppage exposed a deeper concern than the F1 Canadian GP practice red flag. The phrasing of official communications from the FIA's stewards tends to be deliberately dry and factual, but a note of schoolmasterish anger was manifest in the document announcing and explaining a $30,000 fine for Racing Bulls after Liam Lawson's breakdown forced Formula One practice to be red flagged in Canada. Lawson's car halted with a hydraulic problem within 10 minutes of the sole practice session for this sprint weekend getting underway, but the marshals were unable to move it. That in itself presents a problem at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, an older venue that doesn't have the space to accommodate the perimeter roads expected of newer tracks, complicating the task of removing stricken cars. Even so, since all cars must be fitted with a so-called clutch disengagement system, CDS, which acts even if the onboard hydraulics and electrics have failed, it should have been possible for the marshals to push the V-Carbs 03 into one of the gaps in the barriers while covered by a virtual safety car VSE deployment. Instead, the session had to be red flagged and race control added 5 minutes to the end of the session to compensate. For breaching Article C9.3 of the FIA F1 regulations, Racing Bulls was fined $30,000, $20,000 of which was suspended for 12 months, subject to no further breach of this regulation by the competitor for either of their cars. This brings an element of peril for the team, since it has emerged that FIA technical delegate Joe Bauer has previously warned Racing Bulls about its CDS design, which is unusual in that it also services the car's anti-stall system. Article C9.3 states, "All cars must be fitted with a means of disengaging the clutch for a minimum of 15 minutes in the event of the car coming to rest with the engine stopped. This system must be in working order throughout the competition, even if the main hydraulic, pneumatic, or electrical systems on the car have failed. The system is activated by a button that must be clearly marked and located facing upwards on the monocoque so it can be reached and activated within 5 seconds by the driver or marshals." As reported in the steward's findings, in this case, the marshal who initially tried to activate the CDS was trying to press a button in the wrong place. But this had no bearing on the outcome because the system had failed anyway, and this is what clearly annoyed the stewards. Not only did the dual function design prevent the car from being moved, disrupting the business on track. It created a further safety hazard in that the CDS is also supposed to shut off the car's electrical energy recovery system. It was noted that the system on this car performs two roles, said the steward's statement. The one for which is it primarily intended, namely to release the clutch when the car is stopped and the engine is not working, and the other relates to the anti-stall system. In this case, a ruptured joint caused a hydraulic leak, which caused the car to stop. The CDS, when activated by the marshal, then failed to release the clutch, and hence the car could not be moved. This is a serious matter. It resulted in the session being red flagged. Had the system worked as intended by the regulations, the incident could have been dealt with swiftly via deployment of the virtual safety car. The stewards note the concern of the FIA technical delegate over the dual purpose of the CDS on this car. The technical delegate advised that the team had in 2025 been warned about the CDS system design for its cars. Making a single component perform more than one role is a solid engineering principle, but in this case it resulted in an expensive fine and a verbal slap on the wrist from the stewards. The wording of the regulations doesn't explicitly forbid the CDS being used for more than one purpose, but it's understood the technical delegate's concern related to the additional complication making failures more likely. The choice facing the team now is whether to redesign the system, if possible given its integration into the anti-stall mechanism, or take the risk of it happening again. And now I'm going to talk about another news about the energy management challenge at the Canadian GP according to Jolyon Palmer's statements. Jolyon Palmer has explained why Circuit Gilles Villeneuve's layout could make energy harvesting and deployment a key challenge during the Canadian GP sprint. Weekend former Formula One driver and F1 TV reporter Jolyon Palmer has explained why the Canadian Grand Prix provides an energy management challenge for the drivers. Speaking on the F1 TV weekend warm-up, Palmer branded Circuit Gilles Villeneuve as a circuit of two halves, and argued that it must be treated that way when it comes to harvesting and deploying electrical power in the new regulation cars. The challenge is it's a circuit of two halves. You've got the first, and most of it is really easy to recharge because you've got short bursts. You've got big stamps on the brakes. It's a difficult circuit for the brakes. They are usually on the limit of overheating around a place like this, and that's great for recharging, Palmer explained. What's then difficult is the run out of the hairpin up towards that final chicane because you've only got the chicane to recharge something before you get another run to complete the lap in qualifying. You've got quite a low recharge limit as well. It's the lowest we've seen so far, 6 megajoules that you can harvest through a lap, so you have got plenty of opportunity to do that in the first 2/3 of the lap. But then you've got to make sure you can still top the battery up in the latter part because you're going to need that energy on the longest straights, which are late on. George Russell secured pole position for the Canadian Grand Prix sprint race. The Briton will be joined on the front row by his Mercedes teammate Kimi Antonelli. McLaren's Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri will start 3rd and 4th, with Ferrari's Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc 5th and 6th on the sprint grid. And the last news now, I'm going to talk about a public meeting between Jos Verstappen and Toto Wolff. As rumors continue to swirl around Max Verstappen's long-term commitment to F1 and Red Bull, a very public meeting between Mercedes boss Wolff and Verstappen's father in the Montreal paddock prompted intrigue. It's a cliche, but no less true for being oft repeated, that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So it was entirely natural that images of Mercedes Formula One boss Toto Wolff and Max Verstappen's father engaged in a cozy chat in the Canadian Grand Prix paddock would go viral on social media and stoke much speculation about what the agenda might be. Red Bull has had to fight to keep its star driver over the past 2 seasons, despite having him under a long contract, as Verstappen has become manifestly frustrated with the team's inconsistently competitive machinery. It is understood that although Verstappen is contracted until the end of 2028, the performance clauses become more demanding of the team as each season passes. It's also understood that Wolff has had several discussions with Team Max over a potential move to Mercedes, but in this case there was a deliberately contrived air to the proceedings. If Wolff and Verstappen wanted to hold covert talks, then doing so outside the Mercedes hospitality unit, by its front door in fact, in full view of the paddock, was hardly the way to do it, especially with media arriving at exactly that time for the scheduled Kimi Antonelli press conference. Was the aim then to put further pressure on Red Bull to improve after a less than stellar start to the season? Team principal Laurent Mekies, himself no stranger to mischief as evinced by the recent game of job title Ping Pong with McLaren, was determined to dismiss the meeting as inconsequential. I tell you what, as much as it may sound exciting to see that from the outside, I really don't think there is an intention particularly behind it, Mekies said when asked by motorsport.com if he felt he was being sent a message. If any of these guys wants to have a chat, it's going to be a story anyway. So we speak all the time with Max and with Jos. It's completely natural that they can have a conversation with Toto. Max was racing in the Nürburgring 24 hours in a Mercedes last week, a GT3. So I genuinely don't think it's part of a game plan to get a message or another through. Nevertheless, there are still questions over Verstappen's intentions in the coming months. A longtime critic of the 2026 F1 regulations, Max has strongly suggested he would be willing to quit the category unless something is done to fix the anti-driving effects of excessive energy management. Only this week, he indicated that the proposed shift to a 60-40 split of internal combustion engine power to electrical deployment in 2027 could persuade him to stay. But it has now emerged that the so-called agreement in principle, announced by the FIA, failed to achieve the necessary majority vote. Further talks on a compromise solution will take place this weekend. Max cares about the sport, and the reason he's so vocal is because he genuinely cares about Formula One being the pinnacle of motorsport, said Makis when asked if he felt Verstappen's commitment to F1 hinged on the proposed 2027 changes being implemented rather than diluted. And he wants to see, I'm sure as most of you, flat out qualifying. He wants to see the fastest drivers being able to push as hard as they want in the corners without losing any lap time due to that. There has been a fantastic openness from the stakeholders, from the FIA, from F1, from all the teams to say, well, yeah, we need to do something about it. And therefore, I'm sure it's been encouraging for him and for all of us to see that we are all ready to make steps to fix it. And I think it's important for the sport. All true enough, while not actually answering the question. And finally, I would like to conclude this video talking about Aston Martin and why they hasn't updated its F1 car since March. Aston Martin is the only team that hasn't introduced any official upgrades since the April F1 break. Aston Martin hasn't officially upgraded its Formula One car in the last 2 months and likely won't do so until July at the earliest. The Adrian Newey designed AMR 26, which is Aston's first Honda-powered car, has been lacking performance and fighting newcomer Cadillac at the back of the field. With reliability trouble compounding the issues, though the situation has been improving, Fernando Alonso has spearheaded the team's effort with a highest result of 16th in sprint qualifying at the Canadian Grand Prix and 15th under the checkered flag in both Miami races. Alonso revealed after the Floridan round that Aston wasn't going to introduce any upgrades until the summer due to the outfit's deficit to its rivals. This has been confirmed by other team members in Montreal, where for the second time in a row the AMR 26 wasn't updated. It is the only unchanged car relative to the Japanese GP specifications from March. There are modifications on the car, but there is not this kind of modifications that you expect from a big list of upgrades that are being disclosed on Friday morning. These parts will come around the summer, Chief Trackside Officer Mike Crack said. So for the moment, it is detailed changes in several areas that are not so visible, but that will help us to improve. We have an upgrade for Spa, or the one after Spa, I don't know which one, Zandvoort. Lance Stroll added, with this tentative window ranging from the Belgian GP on 16-19 July to the Dutch GP on 2023 August, with Hungary in between. Is it going to be enough to fight for the front? No, but these things don't happen overnight. Everyone's pushing as hard as possible, and we're doing everything we can to bring as much lap time to the car as quickly as we can. In the meantime, Alonso has made it clear that frustration needed to be managed within the squad. As far as he's concerned, the two-time F1 world champion is at peace with the decision. I'm at peace because I understand the situation, he said after the Miami race. The team explained to me that we are P20 or P19 and the next car is 1 second in front. So even if we bring 2/10 every race, it doesn't change our position, and it's a huge stress in the system, in the budget cap and things like that. So until we have a 1.5s or 2-second improvement, it's better not to press the button in production because we waste money. Even without official upgrades, sprint qualifying marked clear progress in Montreal, with Alonso up to 14th in SQ1, ahead of Audi's Gabriel Bortoleto, Haas's Oliver Behrman, and Alpine's Pierre Gasly. That's all for now. I hope you liked this video. If so, don't forget to give me a like and subscribe. Have a good day. Best regards, until the next video.